My son comes over for lunch every Monday, and this particular Monday he came over and we decided we're going to try to resuscitate some plants. He's got a couple plants that he keeps in a front window at his house, and he usually takes really good care of them. They bloom, they're doing wonderfully, but all of a sudden they have died from dehydration. My son brought these over to me yesterday. We have had a casualty, I guess. He tries. He has some plants. I've brought him over to the plant side, but then he forgets. They're in his front window, and they get watered whenever. You can see this one does the best it can, but I told him I thought I could rescue. Now, as you saw in one of my earlier videos, this is the watch chain plant. And this was a huge, huge watch chain. I don't have anything around me that is similar to it that you can see the size of it, but it's huge. So I want to try and see what I can do with that. It's in a real pretty vase, but of course I'm going to try to do something in a little bit smaller vase. The other casualty is a ficus. I don't know if that's rescuable or not. I guess I'm going to have to look it up and see. But it looks pretty bad. It was in this pot. That's a cloche pot. Has drainage. But we're going to look at that and investigate the little codex. I can feel a bit of softness. I'm not sure what to do, but I'll do some research with that. I'll do some research and maybe hydrate it a little and see what we can do. Oh, a little bit of watch chain over here. But let's see if we can rescue it. I brought it in here where we could see it a little bit closer. It does appear to be fairly cut anymore. I think the codex doesn't really have anything left to keep it going. So let me try. That looks like one of the initial cuts where this branch came off. But I'm just going to do this right here. Oh, it crunches. No, it looks dead. So no matter how hard I searched, I went through every piece of the root and everything, but there is no way that there was any sign of life anywhere for me to try to, I don't know, treat real nicely, try to rejuvenate, resuscitate, whatever. It was a lost cause. There was nothing alive left in that plant. So there's nothing to rescue. So unfortunately, I guess that one's gone. We'll have to start new if we want one of these. But that's what it looked like inside. There's nothing left. Poor soul. We'll just try again. Okay, I got the plant all set up here near a sunny window. Hopefully the sun glare won't be too bad. And I am going to try and clean this up, take out some of the living so that I can repropagate this. Now, there are 2 plants in here. Let me back that up. Got it on a turntable. And I'm going to clip this plant first. Let me get it. Now, I think this is Sedum Adolphii. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it's kind of strung out. It looks like it got enough light to grow adequately, but it's got strung out. But it's been in this pot for, I don't even remember how long ago it was I planted this for him. Like 5, 6, 8 years. So I'm going to have to try and put that in pieces and let it callus over, and then I'll replant. Let me see, is this the end? Yeah. Look at how long that piece is. That's ridiculous. Let me just cut that off right here. There, look at that piece. I'll give that some trim later. Now, I've got this on an old kitchen turntable just to make it easier. Let's see a little bit more of the sedum up in here. I'll wait until I can free that up. But what I'll do, I just got a little dish here to put the branches in that I'm going to trim off. Now, I did notice when I carried it in here, I'd gone into my laundry room to get it, and it smelled so good in the laundry room. And the reason it smelled so good is because this plant is blooming. And I know in the film for Watch Chain, I had told you about it blooming. Some of my old ones, let me see if I've got one. Might be able to see some of those. That might be a little bit of a dried up bloom there, but I'll come across some of the brighter yellow ones here in a bit, and I'll show you those. But all of these little ends will root very easily. I'll just put them down into soil, a succulent soil, well draining, and they'll just go like gangbusters. Look at all that. I'll see if I can find a few of the close-ups so that you can see all of the blooms on here. Let me look at this bundle. But it just, I can smell like perfume. I thought it was my fabric softener when I had these sitting in the laundry room. And as I carried it back in here, I realized it was this. Yeah, it has a real sweet smell. Here's one. Let me see if I can get a good close-up of that. I can see where my fingers will get it best. Look at that little flower. Let me get it right over here. Isn't that cute? Tiny, tiny little flower. And they just come out between those little segments. And they can be all in a little row. They smell so good. They're just shaped like a little star. They smell good. And I know during a flowering time isn't the best time to prune, but that's what I'm doing because I don't think the plant could go much longer in the state it's in right now. So basically, I'm just really taking it off like crazy. And then I'm gonna have a mess to sweep up in here, that's for sure. Look at all that. Now, here's one last tangled end of it. Has that one got any of the blooms? Well, my eyesight can't see it right now. But I'm just gonna make little, almost bouquet shapes out of this. And then pot those up as best I can. But the rest of this, let me get this. Look at that mess. Oh, wow. Let me just do that. Okay. Let's see this. Now that's looks like the base part of the Adolphi. Maybe I'll try to pull him up out of the soil. Let me see, is he in there real strong? Oh, here he comes, I can feel it. Oh, look at him, he's dry. Very, very dry. But at least that'll be a good start. Okay. Now let's get the rest of this. There's no way that I need all of this. More flowers. Look at that one. Little teeny tiny flower. And there is a lot. Look at that. I wish I could find one of the stalks that has it all up and down, but I can't find one of those right now. Well, that got most of the worst off of it, at least so that I can clean it up. Look at that mess I've got. Yeah, really, really messy. Okay, well, let's clean this up, and then I'll show you the results of all the little tips I've got that I can plant. In this bundle with the Adolphi seeds, or flowers I should say, look at that. That little branch is still attached to that one. A little stem. Let me get into the little flower is still attached. Well, I shouldn't even say little, because that is a big flower. I'm gonna save it with those. And here's another little blossom head I'll save too, just in case there are any seeds that are left in it. Isn't that pretty? Put that over there. Let's keep on. I've got a huge stack. Keep on. Okay, I have to stop. I've got more than I can plant, and I have to stop somewhere. So there'll be dozens of little pots or bundles, and I can still give away a lot. That's all I'm gonna do. Now for these Adelphii, or however that's said. I've got this one kind of cleaned off a little bit and the tips edged off. And I'm going to set this down in here for now, just because I want to kind of keep it from getting damaged. And I'm going to put some soil in that. I use some of my succulent soil for that. But the cuttings, I pulled out these two bulb vases for spring. I will be able to get these planted, I'm thinking, much sooner. But I'm going to take this long strand that I have, and I'll cut most of that bottom off. I'll just cut it there, and then I think I'll cut it about, I don't know, let's say about right there. I'll cut it. But I got to make sure I keep the top to the top and the bottom to the bottom. And I'll just pull off these leaves. We can sprout leaves if we think we want to have 30 of these plants, which if it was summertime, I would just put them outside, but I'm not anxious for 30 of these plants in the winter. Let me snip it right here and keep the downside on the downside. And then this little piece, he might turn out the best because he's got the most cluster at the top. Let me take off a couple more because he's got a, I don't know, kind of sit and callus over the next several days. And I won't leave him sit here in the sun. I'll put him on the other shelf. But I just got to make sure I keep him upright. Let's see, we've got this piece that branches. I think I'll cut him about right here. Okay, and then he's already got a calloused bottom. Pretty dried up, but just to be safe, we're going to keep him in there too. You going to stay in there, buddy? Going to get stubborn on me? And then I've got this one. Okay, this was the cut end. So we'll just pull off some of those leaves so that we got a good stemmed berry. And that should be a nice cutting. Okay, so I'll put that one down in the same bottle. Okay, now those bottles can be set aside for about a couple of days so that they can callus over. Let's see, I'll put them down here out of the way of the sun. Don't have a shade on the window up there. Okay, and then these, I'll put some soil in here, water that just a little bit, and then I think I'll find a shallow dish just to make a ring with these. But that's what we'll do with the rest of those. Now I need to plant these little things, or at least we'll call it planting. Those little tip leaves, of course, as we all know with succulents, you just put them on top of the soil and they will just dry on their own and typically produce a little new plant there at that bottom end closest to the soil line. So I'm just putting these in a little circle. I don't know what I would ever do with that many plants if they did all sprout, but that's what I'm doing with these leftover little leaves. Looks kind of cute like that. And now the main big branch, the little dried up branch, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a pot. It's got drainage. I've got some good succulent soil in here. And poor thing, we're going to give it some water just as soon as possible. It just shows you how good succulents are and how they can survive with the water that's in their own leaves, because quite obviously this particular pot of plants has not had water in some time, and those leaves are still as plumpy and nice as they're showing, which is a miracle. That's the miracle for succulents. So I'm going to take these two pots that I have and give them just a sprinkle of water on those little leaf sections, but I'll give a bit of a soak on this one in the white pot. And I'm going to include that dried blossom that I found, just in case there should be any seeds. Never know, but somehow I've lost the other one. But that's how I'm going to put it up there and set it on the bookshelves so they can just progress and see how they'll do. Now I'm getting ready to plant the watch chain. I kind of got that little bundle soaking in some water with water conditioner. And I've decided on this pot. Way back, I had watch chain in a container like this. And yes, that is a glass container. No drainage, no nothing. But that's something I love. I saw that at the thrift store for $3.99, and I thought this would be perfect. It even came with its own stand. Let me show you. It sits inside it just like this. And I used to have watch chain growing in one of those. It grew straight up all the way to the top and over it. The only picture I can find right now is this spot where I was transplanting because there was so much in it. That's what it looked like lying on its side. But it was so pretty, so lush, so green, and that's what I want to do with this one. So that's where we're going to go today to get this planted and get started. Now I'm going to put some charcoal in this to begin with. Horticultural charcoal. And that's just to kind of make it so the soil doesn't get yucky. Or at least try to help from something like that. But in my experience, if you're careful with how you water and use it, you're not going to have any kind of a problem. So now let me fill this up with the soil. I've got the same soil treated with the systemic, and I wanted to get it just about level with the little bands here. I thought that would look the prettiest. So that's what I'm going to do with this. And now, since I've got that taken care of, I can just go ahead and move it out of its little container. And we'll start planting. Now I'm going to pull this out of here and kind of, let me see, I hope that's visible. pull it out of there and cut any long dead ends off, because we don't want to start with a long dead end. And I know I won't go through showing the whole thing, but I'm just going to plant them in little clusters, and throwing a little piece like that, just like I did on that one I planted outside, that'll grow into a little tree shape by the end of like 3-4 months during a growing season. But these little pieces should be trees in no time. Let me get that. And we'll see just how many of these I decide on. Let's see, that should be one. He's got a good growing tip, and those pieces are going to get thrown down in there too. And I've probably got way too much watch chain for this container, but I've got a lot of more containers that I could put it in. So anyway, let's just get this going. Now, for the rest of this portion, I'm just going to go ahead and speed it up. I'm basically just taking the little green parts of the sprigs and kind of putting them in little clusters, sort of, and then just shoving the end down, the growing end down into the soil. So I'll just put, I don't know, 5 or 6 little bouquets, I'll call it, down there in the bottom of that container, and I am sure they will take off and root right away. In my experience with the watch chain, it roots so easily that I can even take the little leftover sprigs, a tiny little pinch of one that's 1/4 of an inch long and 1 inch long, and it'll just start to grow. No problem. I've done that many times, and it works just fine for me. Now, most of the time I'm just cutting off the little dried up end and just putting the good end. And I am hoping that setting it near the window and near grow lights that I've got in operation here in this room will get it gradually to stand upright, because I would like it to grow like my old pot of these did and kind of stand straight up and grow toward the top. Wish me luck on that. And I guess I'll see if I'll turn it back over to TJ. Looks real good, and there is the windowsill that's going to sit in for now, along with the other plants. These look a little pathetic, but I think they're going to be nice in the long run. Now, I have this pot that I, of course, got at the Goodwill, and I've got a container that I think is supposed to be for an African violet, and I'm just going to use that because I thought it would be pretty, would keep it from getting too much water, give me a nice big drainage hole there, and I'm just going to shove the ends down in here of this Sedum Adolphi. And basically, that's all I'm going to do for the rest of this plant. These are all those cuttings that I took from it. And I'll just shove that calloused over root end down in there. And then, since I have so much of the watch chain left over, I will go ahead and put that in too. Now, a couple of these ends I did decide were too long, and I trimmed the ends, but I'm going to hold off watering this for a couple days, and that'll give the time for a fresh cut end of the stem to callus over in the dry soil itself. Now, of course, I have another pot that I'm going to put more of the excess watch chain in. Cute little, almost marbly looking pot that I have put a hole in the bottom of. I think it'll be very, very cute. I'm just going to shove these little tiny pieces down in there and make sure that I can have extras, because you never know if we might have any kind of another incident and something dies a slow and painful dehydrated death. But I think that's going to look very cute. So I got my hopes up for all these plants we've just planted and tried to resuscitate and renew, but I think we're going to have success. They look really good. I'm well pleased. And just a quick little review of my plants. I've got that one, the other one in the tall glass vase in the windowsill, and there's the marble one. It's under a grow light near the windowsill. And this one sitting upon the sill itself in the fishbowl. I think they're all cute, and I sure have my hopes up for these plants. This is what I wish for. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.